You have $340 in checking, in a phone buzzing with a group chat photo of your friend Marcus standing next to a jet ski he just financed. You don't reply right away. You're standing in your kitchen in socks, the linoleum cold under your feet, holding a grocery receipt you haven't looked at yet because you already know what it's going to say. $31 for a week of groceries you stretched across 9 days. You've gotten good at that kind of math without meaning to, not because anyone taught you, because the number taught you, the way it always does when you let it sit long enough. Marcus texts again. "Come see it this weekend, bro. You'll want one." You type back nice, and mean it mostly, the way you mean most things lately. Half true, half something you don't examine too closely. You make $46,000 a year answering phones for a regional insurance office, the kind of job that comes with a lanyard and a parking spot nobody fights you for. You've had it 3 years. You still eat the same turkey sandwich most days, the same brand of bread, because you did the math on the difference between the deli sandwich and the one you make yourself, and the number bothered you enough to keep doing it. Marcus makes about the same. You know this because you've seen his pay stub once, years ago, back when you were closer than you are now. Same bracket, same taxes, same starting line. Different everything else since. The jet ski is $312 a month before insurance. You know this because you asked, and he told you the number the way people tell you their age, without thinking twice about what it costs to say it out loud. You don't say anything about the number. You've learned that saying anything about someone else's number never goes anywhere good. So you just nod, and you drive home in a Nissan with 118,000 miles on it, the check engine light on for so long, you've started to think of it as a dashboard feature instead of a warning. Here's what nobody tells you about getting rich quietly. It doesn't look like anything. It doesn't feel like anything either most days. It looks exactly like being broke, right up until it doesn't, and by then you've stopped checking for the difference because you were never watching for a finish line in the first place. It starts on a Tuesday, the most forgettable day of the week, the day nothing is supposed to happen. You're at your desk during lunch, and a coworker named Priya, 2 cubicles over, mentions almost in passing that she just bumped her retirement contribution up again. You ask how much she's putting in. She says 12%. You do the math on your own paycheck without meaning to, the way you do most math now, quietly, in your head, before you've decided whether you're actually going to act on it. You're putting in 3%. You've been putting in 3% since the day HR handed you a folder and told you it was enough to get the company match, and you believed them because believing them was easier than doing the math yourself. That night, you open the benefits portal on your laptop at your kitchen table, the same table where the grocery receipt is still sitting because you haven't thrown it away yet. You bump it from 3 to 8. Not because 8 feels brave, because 8 is the number you can say out loud to yourself without your chest tightening, and you've learned that's usually the number worth starting at. The system asks you to confirm. You do. Nothing happens. No music, no confetti, no notification that feels like it matches the size of what you just did. Your account goes down by a percentage point you can't even feel yet, and you close the laptop and go to bed. The next Saturday, Marcus posts a story of himself at a steakhouse, a ribeye that costs more than your grocery bill for the week. You like the post, you don't comment. You're at your own kitchen counter that same night eating pasta from a box that cost $1.39, and it doesn't feel like sacrifice the way it might have 2 years ago. It just feels like Tuesday, like a decision you made once and don't have to make again. You open a Roth IRA that same week, the kind of thing you'd looked into a dozen times before and closed the tab a dozen times before, always telling yourself you'd get to it once things settled down. Things never settle down. You've learned that too, so you stop waiting for settled, and you just do it unsettled on a random Thursday with $40 you weren't sure you could spare. $40. Marcus spends more than that on a haircut. You don't tell him about the account. You don't tell anyone actually, except once, almost by accident, to your sister Dana, who works as a hygienist and has never once asked you what you make. She just nods when you mention the Roth, like she already has one, and it turns out she does, has for 2 years, and neither of you ever brought it up before because neither of you had a reason to perform it for the other. Why didn't you say anything? You ask her. Why would I? She says. It's not a competition. That sentence stays with you longer than you expect it to. 3 months in, you bump the contribution again, 10% this time. You don't buy anything to celebrate it. You don't post anything. You just watch the number in your checking account stay roughly where it's always been,
Because the whole trick, you're starting to understand, is that the money leaves before you ever get attached to it. You can't miss what you never touched. Marcus, meanwhile, upgrades his phone, then his TV. Then he starts talking about a truck, something bigger than the jet ski, something with a payment that makes your stomach drop a little just hearing the number out loud. You don't say anything. It's not your money. It's not your business. But you notice yourself doing the math anyway, the way you can't help it anymore, running his number against what that same payment could become if it went somewhere else instead. $640 a month, over 30 years, invested instead of financed, averaging what the market's averaged over most 30-year stretches. That's closer to $1 million by the time either of you would be 60, not instantly, not flashy, just quietly compounding, while somebody drives a truck that's worth less every single year they own it. You never say this to them. You've learned that telling somebody the math rarely changes anything, except how they feel about you afterward. Winter comes, and your car finally gives out for real. Not the check engine light kind of trouble, the kind where it just doesn't start one morning in a parking lot, and you're standing there in the cold, breathing on your hands, waiting for a tow truck you can't really afford, doing the math on what this is about to cost you. The estimate comes back at $1,400. Not catastrophic, not nothing either. You sit in your apartment that night with your laptop open, looking at your accounts the way you've started most nights. Not out of anxiety exactly, more like checking on something you're not sure is actually growing. Checking has $610 in it. The Roth has $2,100. The brokerage account you opened almost as an afterthought, the one you funded with $50 a month automatically so you'd never have to decide to do it twice, sits at $890. Your thumb hovers over the Roth for a second. You could pull from it. It would cover most of the repair. Nobody would know. Nobody would even ask. You don't. Instead, you open a third account, the one you built specifically for moments like this, the one you've been feeding $25 a week for over a year without telling anyone, including yourself most days, that it was for exactly this kind of Tuesday. It has $1,300 in it. Boring. Unglamorous. Built for no reason anyone around you would notice, until tonight when it turns out to be the only reason you don't touch anything else. You pay the mechanic. You don't celebrate. You just drive home in a car that starts now, and something in your chest settles that you don't have a name for yet. Not pride, not relief. Something closer to the feeling of a door you didn't know was open finally clicking shut. Marcus texts that weekend asking if you want to see the truck. You go. You stand in the driveway while he shows you the interior, the sound system, the way the seats heat up in under a minute. You tell him it's nice. You mean it, the way you mean most things now. Half true, half something you keep to yourself.
He asks how you're doing money-wise. Sort of joking, sort of not. You say you're doing okay. You don't elaborate. He doesn't push. That's the whole architecture of it, really. Nobody pushes when you don't give them anything to push against. A year in, you bump the retirement contribution one more time, to 15%, the number that used to sound impossible back when 3 felt like a stretch. You do it on your lunch break in the break room, fluorescent light humming overhead, and nobody in the building notices because there's nothing to notice. You look exactly the same. Same lanyard, same sandwich, same Nissan. Older now, another 11,000 miles on it, still starting every morning like it owes you an apology it'll never give. Priya asks you one day, almost offhand, how your accounts are doing. You tell her. Not the full number, just that things are moving in the right direction. She nods like she already expected that, the way people do when they recognize something in you that they found in themselves a while back. You start noticing things you didn't notice before. How the people who talk the loudest about money are usually the ones spending it the fastest. How the quiet ones, the ones with the older cars and the same lunch every day, are usually the ones with the numbers you'd never guess from the parking lot. Dana's house, when you visit for a weekend, is modest from the outside, needs a new roof, the kind of place nobody would look twice at. She mentions almost in passing that she's been putting money into a small rental property 2 towns over, something she manages quietly with a friend, something neither of their coworkers know anything about. Why keep it quiet, you ask her? The same question you asked once before, because the second people know it, she says, they start having opinions about it. You think about that the whole drive home. 2 years in, the number in your Roth crosses
$11,000. The brokerage account, still funded automatically, still barely thought about most weeks, crosses 6. None of it changes how you live day to day. You still buy the store brand, you still drive the Nissan, though the check engine light finally got fixed, mostly by accident when a mechanic noticed it while doing something else. You still answer phones for the same regional insurance office, still eat the same sandwich, still nod politely when Marcus shows you whatever he's upgraded to next. He's on his second truck by then, a newer one, the payment higher than the first, the excitement lasting about as long as it did the first time, which is to say a few months before it becomes just a truck again, another bill folded into the rest of his life. You never bring up the math. You've learned there's no version of that conversation that ends well for either of you. So instead, you just keep doing what you've been doing, quietly, on a schedule nobody but you is watching, and you let the silence do the work silence is good at, which is protecting something long enough for it to actually grow. 3 years in, you get a small raise, not a life-changing one, just enough that you notice it in the grocery aisle before you notice it anywhere else. You don't upgrade the car, you don't move apartments, you bump the contribution 1 more percentage point instead, and you split the rest between the Roth and the emergency account, the one that saved you the winter the Nissan died, and you do it all so quietly that nobody in your life, including Marcus, including most days yourself, would ever guess anything had changed. That's the part nobody prepares you for, that getting rich quietly doesn't feel like getting rich. It feels like nothing for a long time, right up until the day you check the numbers and realize that nothing was actually something, compounding while you weren't looking, growing in the background of a life that still looks, from the outside, exactly the way it always has. You still get the group chat photos, Marcus at a steakhouse, Marcus with a new phone, Marcus standing next to something that costs more than your rent, smiling the way people smile when they want to be asked about it. You still like the posts, you still don't comment, not because you're better than him, you'd never say that even to yourself, just because you've stopped needing anyone to see what you're building in order to believe it's real. Some night soon, sitting on your own back steps, you might try to explain all of this to someone, maybe Dana, maybe no one at all. You'll find there's not much to say, no dramatic before and after, no single Tuesday you can point to and call the turning point, just a long, unremarkable string of ordinary days nobody was watching, adding up to a number nobody around you would ever guess just from looking at your car in the parking lot. You never quite find the words for it. What you find instead is another ordinary Tuesday, a grocery receipt on the counter you haven't thrown away yet, a phone buzzing with a photo of something shiny you don't want anymore, not because you've grown past wanting things, but because you found something that does the job better and asks nothing of you in return. Nobody has to know. That was never the point. Somewhere tonight, someone is standing in their kitchen in socks, holding a receipt, doing math they didn't ask their brain to do, deciding, without knowing it yet, which version of themselves is about to show up.